If you guys want some coins for the new Fut Fantasy promo, please check out MMOXP.com. Their link is down in the description. They're very fast, they're very cheap, they're very reliable, and if you use my code Rema, you can get yourself 5% off your order. This supports the channel greatly. So what's up guys, my name's Ash and welcome back to a brand new video. In today's video guys, I've got some updated 4-1-2-1-2 narrow custom tactics and player instructions for you. The 4-1-2-1-2 is one of the best attacking formations in the game, so I'm hoping you guys do like this one. Just before we get into today's video though, I'd very much appreciate it if you could drop it a thumbs up, as that does really help with the YouTube search algorithm. Also subscribe to the channel if you are new so you never miss out on any videos like this one, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you are notified when a video is posted. And with all that aside guys, let's get right into today's video. Okay guys, so starting off with the custom tactics, the defensive style, I like to use this on balance. The reason for this is it allows you to press when you want to press and drop off and be more conservative when you need to be, so it does give you the very much needed control in your defense. Now moving on to the defensive width guys, I like to have this on 45. The reason I do this is because it's primarily a narrow shape, but at the same time you're also able to have that natural width which gives you the ability to cover those wings. So we primarily focus on covering those central areas, but when we need to cover the wide areas we are also able to do so. Now moving on to the depth guys, because I use the 4-1-2-1-2 as my really aggressive formation, I have the depth on 72, and this is for the automatic offside trap, which allows us to catch our opponent out when they're constantly playing those through balls. So by having this depth really high, it allows us to win the ball higher up the pitch and keep a nice tight defensive line. Sometimes when you have, a lower depth, your players seem to move out of position a little bit in the defensive line. It's really weird, so 72 depth seems to keep them more in a straight line. Now moving on to build up play guys, I like to use this on balance. This is because it is the most suited for all types of FIFA 23 gameplay, whether it's fast gameplay, slow gameplay, laggy gameplay. There's so many different types of gameplays. Balanced is just the most consistent out of them all. That being said, fast build up can be very good when the gameplay is fast because you're able to keep up with the movements, but when the gameplay is slower, which it quite often is, fast build up is just too quick for what you're actually able to play. Moving on to chance creation guys, there's two main options I think you guys can use really. I prefer direct passing because it makes your attackers bunch up against the defenders, allowing you to do those isolation plays which are very meta in this game. It also gives them the correct movement which will actually break them through the defensive line with their runs. You can see that in the diagram in the bottom right hand corner of the screen. But that being said, I've seen a lot of people that don't actually like direct passing, and another one you can try which is honestly pretty good, it's just not really my style, is forward runs. Basically your players push very far into your opponent's half into the penalty box. It can be very good for creating attacks, but if you lose the ball you can get counter-attacked very easily, so just keep that in mind. Moving on to the attacking width guys, I like to have this on 47. The reason for this is when you have your width too low, it feels like your players are like sitting on top of each other and they're not making uses of the space that there is around them. But you also don't want that width too high because it plays more like a wide formation, which we don't want it to, because obviously it's the 4-1-2-1-2 narrow. So 47's been really nice and balanced, where we keep a nice narrow attacking style, but at the same time our players are, spread out a little bit to give us more options and freedom. Now moving on to players in box, I like to have this on 7. The reason for this is I like to get a lot of players into the box when I'm using this formation to create as many chances as possible. If you want to lower this or up it even more, that is completely up to you, but I just have this on 7. As for corners and free kicks, I have these both on 1 because I do actually have a corner kick routine where there is a link to that in the top right hand corner of the screen, which requires me to use these both on 1. Now moving on to the players you want to use guys, in the 2 striker positions, because it is a 2-striker formation, you do have a bit more freedom. What I like to do is I like to have a creative player on the left side, which is Di Maria, somebody which is actually able to create as well as finish, so somebody with like the 5-star skills, a good dribbling ability, a good passing ability, as well as being able to score. And then in the other position I like to have a more clinical striker. The reason I do this is because I like to have a creative finisher dynamic, and it seems to add more variety to the attack. Now moving on to the cam, you're going to want to use a nice technical player, somebody that is agile, somebody that has good passing ability, is able to dribble, basically really good creative all-round play. You're not going to want a massive truck in this position because you're going to find it difficult to turn and really work the angles, so it's important that you do use a very good cam. Moving on to the left centre mid, I suggest a more box-to-box player, so I'm using the flashback Paul Pogba. You're going to want somebody with very well-rounded stats, And if you can get it a high work rate, so you get the maximum contribution in attack and defense. But for example, this Pogba is a high medium and he still works just fine. So the work rates are something you should aim for, but don't worry too much if you can't get them. Just make sure you're using the correct type of player. So for example, in this position, we're going to want somebody with very well-rounded stats. Moving on to the CDM, you're going to want a defensive player, somebody that is going to stay back while we are attacking, and somebody that's really there to break up the play. So you're going to want to use somebody with a medium-high work rate if you can get it, and very good defensive stats. But if you can't get the medium-high, don't worry too much. Just go for somebody with very good defensive stats in that area. Now, moving on to the right centre mid, guys, we actually use an attacker in this position. This is somebody that's going to get forward and really contribute to the attack. It's very important you guys understand this, but he's not actually going to defend as a centre mid, so we don't have to worry about his defensive ability. Just go for a proper attacking the player like Alawaran, Jairzinho, Mbappe, any player like that in this position. It'll all make sense in the player instructions. As for the fullbacks, I like to go for a bit of a balance between the two, where I have one more attacking minded fullback in Roberto Carlos. This is somebody that's very good on the ball and at attack. And then we have one more defensive fullback in Cafu, which is a bit more solid at the back, but maybe lacks a little bit going forward. So I like to have a balance, but you guys can do what you want there. As for the centre backs and the goalkeeper, these just need to be as meta as you can possibly get them. Now, for the player instructions, guys, on the two strikers, I like to have them both on stay central. The reason we have them on stay central is because we don't want them drifting off into those wider areas. There are strikers, so they need to be in the middle in the correct positions. Obviously, this is also a narrow formation, so if we have them drifting off to the wings, it doesn't work too well. I also have them on mixed attack because I think it is better from a build-up sense where your players are closer together. If you have them on getting behind, sometimes they feel very disconnected and it makes your attack very one-dimensional, which is not good against those top end players. Moving on to the cam, guys, I have him on comeback on defense. The reason for this is it's going to make this defend in a 4-4-2. So Jairzinho is going to come back to defend as a left midfielder. So the back four is going to be the same, but we're going to have Jairzinho left mid, Pogba left centre mid, Jorginho right centre mid, and Chiesa right mid, which is why I said that right centre mid is not super important to be a well-rounded player. You can just use an attacker there. So make sure you have comeback on defense, otherwise this won't work. Moving on to the left centre mid, the more box-to-box player, we have him on default settings and cover centre. We have him on default settings because he is a box-to-box player, so we want him to do a bit of everything. We want him to have the freedom to attack and defend. So these default settings allow him to do that, and the only important thing is cover centre, so he does actually defend as one of the centre mids in the 4-4-2. Now moving on to the CDM, the defensive player, we have stay back while attacking, cut passing lanes, and cover centre. We do this because this guy's defensive, of course. We want him to stay back, we don't need him to go forward. We have him on cut passing lanes, so he's always looking to break up the play and allow us to go forward. And we have him on cover centre, so again, like Pogba, he defends as one of the centre mids in this 4-4-2 shape while we are defending. Now for the right centre mid, where you've got an actual attacker, we have get forward, get into the box for cross, and cover wing. We have him on get forward because we obviously want this player to get forward. We need him to attack, so we tell him to do that. We want him to get into the box for cross because otherwise he'll be very passive when we get around to the penalty area. He'll kind of just sit and watch while the other players do all the work, so we want him to get involved and have him on get into the box for cross. We also have him on cover wing, so he defends as one of the right mid. He defends as the right mid in this 4-4-2 shape. Sorry about that, I'm struggling to speak right now, but yeah, moving on to the left back, guys, I have them on balanced attack and overlap. The reason we do this is because this is obviously a narrow formation, so sometimes we need to add that extra width to the formation. So by having this player on balanced attack and overlap, it gives us a wide option when we are attacking, which is super useful and allows us to create a lot more chances. So with your more attacking fullback, I suggest balanced attack and overlap. Now on your more defensive fullback, I suggest stay back while attacking and overlap. The reason we do this is because we always want at least 3 at the back so we can at least defend attacks. If we only have 2 at the back, it's very easy for the opponent to go down the wings, so we don't want that. And we also have him on overlap, so when we do send him forward on a run, like if I tap L1 for example, he will make the overlapping runs to add extra width. As for the centre-backs and the goalkeeper, I just leave these alone and I don't change their instructions. But yeah, guys, they're my custom tactics and player instructions for the 4-1-2-1-2 narrow. If you guys have enjoyed or found this useful, I'd very much appreciate it if you could drop it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you are new so you never miss out on any videos like this one, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you are notified when a video is posted. And with all that aside, guys, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.